Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report, Wednesday's edition, broadcasting from beautiful Irvine, California. Thank you for joining us today on this Thanksgiving Eve. Hey Jeffrey, welcome back to Schaftlein Report. Happy to see you again.
Good to see you. Good to see everybody else.
Yes.
Hi folks, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, we will start off the show by wishing everyone that. Jeffrey, news really hot off the presses in the Arbery case. 3 men, 3 guilty verdicts to different charges, but all 3 convicted of felony murder. Your thoughts on the verdict in that case?
You know, there were a lot of comparisons between this case and Rittenhouse, but to me, the big difference is with Rittenhouse, it obviously looked like self-defense. Mm-hmm. In this case, there really wasn't that proof.
Yeah, I concur with you. I didn't follow this case as closely, but it, when a jury comes back and, for the most part, again, there was roughly 8 or 9 counts against each of the defendants. The shooter, the one that actually pulled the trigger, was found guilty, I think, on all 9. The other 2 were found guilty on 6, 7 of the charges. But the most serious offense, felony murder, that's going to carry a long sentence. I mean, I was not surprised by the verdict in that case either. When you listen to the various excerpts from the trial, again, I didn't have time to follow it closely, but from what I've seen, it looks like, again, in my view, it looks like the jury got it right in both cases.
Absolutely.
The Rittenhouse case and the Arbery case. That's my opinion too. One thing that was troubling about this, and we're going to talk about this, you had a lot of BLM organizers outside the courthouse basically threatening violence if the right verdict wasn't reached. Now, fortunately, we're not going to go through that because the verdict was guilty. But again, all this goes back, I think, to the Biden administration for sticking their necks in the middle of trials really that should be determined by jurors. And as you and I both said, in these 2 high-profile cases, it appears to both of us the jury got it right on both fronts. So
absolutely.
So I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, the need to have Biden sticking his neck in this, I don't know. I think it's unseemly, to be honest with you.
Well, and plus, right after the Rittenhouse jury announced the verdict, he said, "Well, you got to believe the jury." And then he took a step back hours later and said, well, I don't like violence. I don't like people, becoming vigilantes.
Right.
Well, he wasn't a vigilante.
Right. I think in the Rittenhouse case, he should apologize to him. I mean, a reporter asked Jan Psaki the other day if he was going to do that, and she said no. And so I don't think we're going to get anything out of that.
He doesn't like to admit being wrong.
He never has liked to admit being wrong in 40
and
years
I
in
saw
politics.
they had a series of clips on, I think it was Newsmax, where it showed presidents apologizing for being wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's no crime if he admits he's wrong about something, which he clearly was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's see how they react to this verdict. They were critical initially of the Rittenhouse one. See if this jury gets praised. The double standard's astounding. But let's shift subjects a little bit. Jeffrey, the main topic I wanted to talk about today is this colossal failure of what we call bail failure. I mean, people are outraged by what they've seen, in that Wisconsin case, how a career criminal with a rap sheet, from head to toe, was out on $1,000 bail. I mean, and
one of the things he was on bail for that he was charged with was skipping bail.
Right.
How do you get bail again after you skip bail?
Yeah, and he was wanted in another state for a crime also. So I mean, but part of this goes back to the Democratic Party and the Biden administration's philosophy that they want to end cash bail. I mean, that is the Biden administration stated policy. Even Kamala Harris, when she was a prosecutor, she wanted cash bail. The higher, the better. But now that she's vice president, well, no, we've evolved. Now we're against it. Jeffrey, in every single case, when they get rid of bail, crime spikes.
Well, did you hear what the prosecutor said in Milwaukee County?
Well, I've said a lot. Go ahead, please.
Okay, wait. I have the quote right here. He said basically that in 2007, when they revised the bail law, he said just because innocent people will die because of a violent felon is released, it doesn't invalidate the overall approach for weakening the bail law.
Yeah, that's just an insane position to take. What we're seeing here in this case, it's a prime example of what I call bail failure in America, okay? And this is happening all across American cities. You are seeing left-wing district attorneys responsible for this stuff. And a lot of them are funded by Soros, and it's really coming to the head now. That Wisconsin killer, the one that killed the 6 people, all right? This guy is basically a racist promoting BLM and his desire to kill, and I'm quoting right from his own social media, old white people. The guy wanted to kill old white people. He said it on his social media post. Why wasn't that thing taken down or censored? Okay?
And CNN was saying, well, he was running away from being chased by the cops.
Yeah.
And the sheriff said, no, that's not what happened.
Right. Well, that CNN has zero credibility. None whatsoever. But it's a symptom here of, we take a racist killer, which is what this guy was, and here you take some of the media trying to soften it because, he's a black guy and he's a racist and he wanted to kill white people. The shoe's on the other foot. They beat headlines all over everything. But in this case, they're trying to downplay it. Some of them even referred to the fact that, it was a car crash. It wasn't any car crash. It was a murder. And to me, it looked like domestic terrorism. If that happened, when that happened in France, where the guy got the truck and mowed people down, they called it domestic terrorism. Well, it's the same situation here. A guy posted on his social media sites. He was going to, he was.
One of the other things he was on bail for is he tried to run over his girlfriend.
Yeah. You can understand why people are outraged up in Wisconsin to see this happening. And then, here again, like you and I even talked last week, we don't rush to judgment on a situation. But here in this case, when the guy has it posted on his social media sites that, he hates white people, big supporter of BLM, he wants to kill older white people, well, he takes his car, uses it as a weapon, and kills people. It's just when you see the way.
But aren't you surprised that the liberals aren't saying to ban all cars now?
I am a little surprised. When that one knucklehead in Charlottesville back, a couple of years ago, drove his car through, media outrage about it. Guy got charged with murder and convicted. Here.
Well, when Cain killed his brother Abel, they wanted to get rid of all rocks.
I know it. I would expect that. Jeffrey, at some point, some sanity's got to start returning here because, like bail reform. In LA, they did it, and now crime's out of control up in LA. 29 homicides up 26% this year. This is just crazy stuff going on. And, I look at it and I say, no wonder people feel the country's going in the wrong direction. That right track, wrong track is insane. It's like 29% of the country, mostly Democrats, of course, figure the country's moving in the right direction. 63% say no. Jeff, that's 34% upside down, and it's no surprise when you see crime escalating. You see these inflation numbers out of control, gas prices at high levels.
It's our fault that inflation is out of control. He said that.
Who said? But you're talking about Biden?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Didn't he blame it on us?
Well, we get blamed for everything else. Why not this? Now, it is interesting. It is interesting. Okay.
And New York murders are up.
Oh, way
Same
up.
reason.
Way up. And yet you got Ocasio-Cortez and those leftist Democrats in the House that represent New York pushing to end more bail laws in the city. I mean, I got to tell you, it's insane to me, some of these proposals. And I don't understand why. I mean, it's just inviting more crime. I mean, you know, it almost seems like the media and the Democratic Party are more concerned about the perpetrators of violence than the victims of violence.
Yep. Look at the other law in California that I think it's $900.
Yeah.
If you steal less than $900, it's not a felony anymore. It's just regular shoplifting.
That's correct.
Which is why Walgreens is leaving San Francisco, CVS is leaving, Target's leaving. There was a mob that went into Neiman Marcus and took their stuff. There was another mob that went into Louis Vuitton and stole there. You know, and for any of you listening who are from San Francisco, remember there are only 31 more stealing days till Christmas.
That's right. 31 days left to steal. Take the stuff, put it on eBay and Amazon. You know, I mean, it's insane what's going on. Hey, Jeffrey, it's not just San Francisco. Here in Orange County, they had a case 2 days ago at a well-known South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa, dining place, Seasons 52, right by Capitol Grill. Very, very popular place. And 4 or 5 hooded guys came up with, you know, the hoods on, the caps on, and had all the patrons that were sitting outside lay on the floor. The crazy thing was, by the time, you know, police got there and they escaped, the theft involved one purse. That's all they got. But these guys are so stupid. I mean, they risk going to jail 15, 20 years to steal a purse. You know, I mean, the insanity of this stuff, Jeffrey, just it's mind-boggling. But it's happening all across the country.
Because the chance of being thrown in jail is tiny.
Explain further.
Well, I'm thinking, you know, you have the bail law in most places. I know it's in New York State where, you know, in most cases you do a crime, you go to court, they let you right out.
Yeah, well, in New York City, I saw cases of repeat offenders. I mean, for assault cases, you know, not felony assault, but non-felony assault, there's people getting in and out of the system, like charged with the same crime 15, 20 times. How in the world does that keep happening? Because of the bail?
Yep. And also, de Blasio, he took away the plain clothes unit. Their job was to get guns off the street. And so he took that away because he wanted to defund part of the police.
Oh my God, just never.
Adams, who's the new mayor, who's coming in January 1st, says he's one of the first things they do is put that unit back. And Black Lives Matter, you mentioned before, they said that you know, they're going to attack New York because of it.
Well, we wish Eric Adams all the best as he cleans up de Blasio's mess. He's got a big job ahead of him. Hey, let me move on to some economic news. Senator Joe Manchin, Jeffrey. Manchin's come out and basically is pressing the Biden administration to, you know, reopen the Keystone XL pipeline. You know, Manchin's right about that. I mean, right now the country has a shortage of 2 million barrels of oil a day. Keystone alone could supply 900,000 of that. That would do wonders to help ease gas prices here, but no. Biden actually had to say in a press conference yesterday, well, I'm not deliberately trying to raise gas prices in order to thwart, you know, climate change. Look, everybody knows he's trying to do that. He may not be intentionally. I mean, I don't think the guy intentionally tries to do anything. I don't think he's smart enough to think that far ahead. But the fact of the matter is, all his policies, from everything that you and I have talked about, Keystone.
You know, you have Keystone. You have that he stopped drilling on federal lands, including Anwar, which they said is the biggest reserve in the country.
Yeah.
You know, he might close down another pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything he's doing is trying to, and he's made it that the investors in oil companies, they don't want to invest anymore because you know why? They think their business is going to go out of business.
Well, let me take the other side of that trade. I mean, oil companies can do extremely well at $70, $75 a barrel on oil. And when you're into the 80s, they literally are going to be gushing profits, because what they've been able to do, Jeffrey, is lower their cost of drilling. They've been more selective. You know, Biden has not been successful begging the Saudis to pump more oil. You know, the world, Jeffrey, the demand for oil is now back to where it was pre-pandemic. The world's using about 100 million barrels of oil a day. Okay, that's what the number is. Unfortunately, the production is slightly below that. And to put it in perspective, folks, a 2% reduction in supply when you have demand at 100 million barrels a day, that's going to cause prices to go up. Okay,
Yep.
I mean, that's just the way it is. And
the 50 million barrels that he's letting out of the strategic reserve, some of it is going to India and China.
Well, yeah, it is, because some of that oil is going to be bought. It's really a sort of a con game the way they play that. You know, 18 million barrels are going to come out. Okay, great. You know what? You know how much the United States consumes in any given day? About 20 million barrels.
Right.
Right. So basically, he's going to release one day's worth of oil. The other 32 million barrels, folks, it's under a swap agreement. It's going to be released, but it's got to be repurchased within a certain period of time. I didn't review the contract, but it's called a swap, and that's what they do.
And you might understand this better than I do, but the oil in our strategic reserve has extra sulfur. So it's harder to be purified in the United States. Our companies don't have the facilities to do that. That's why
you're talking about the refining capacity.
The refineries.
Yeah. I mean, we do. Okay, it's going to take a little longer, but yes, we do have that capacity here in the U.S. The problem is, because of these environmentalists and the greenies, we haven't been able to build a new refinery in this country in 10 years. So again, it's just, these are self-inflicted wounds. Okay, is it, you know, it's like Biden says, look, I'm not deliberately trying to raise gas prices. You could have fooled me. These policies are what's causing this stuff. And then when you take bad policy and couple it with simple economic supply and demand dynamics, look, Jeffrey, the world uses 100 million barrels a day like we talked about. What was sort of embarrassing was Jennifer Granholm, who's the energy secretary, when someone asked her what the U.S. uses on a daily basis, she didn't know the answer. For goodness sake, she's the energy secretary. I mean, it's hard to make this stuff up, folks. It really is.
And none of them took Economics 101 in college, because supply and demand is easy.
Yeah, you would think so. Well, amidst all that, our esteemed governor in California, Gavin Newsom, has rejected, get a load of this, folks, rejected 109 permits to do hydraulic fracking. Hydraulic fracking it's like kryptonite for the environmental left. I mean, it's just, they hate it. And look, California has a stated policy, no oil and gas drilling in this state by 2045. Now, I mean, he is doing everything he can to speed it up, and he actually thinks that by not drilling for oil and gas in California, he's going to help the globe, help the climate. I mean, Jeffrey, that is the old saying, a pimple on a bull's ass. I mean, he has no chance of pulling this off whatsoever. But again, he's appeasing to, you know, the greenies and the people that are look here, in certain parts of California, Jeffrey, it's $6 a gallon out here.
You know, in New York, we have a giant area for fracking. Mm-hmm. The northwest part of the state, which is bordering Pennsylvania.
Right, a lot of jobs.
And Cuomo wouldn't let it drill. I'm sure the new one won't either. Okay, but we not only have a lot of oil to get out, but that would fill the tax coffers, so we wouldn't have to pay as much taxes.
That's exactly right. Right.
You know, Cuomo doesn't care. There are no young women there, I guess.
Well, it's really interesting because, you know, even economic advisors to the president, you know, we talked about this on yesterday's show, they're coming out and telling people, hey, inflation's going to be with us maybe Q2 or Q3 of 2022. Jeffrey, if inflation's running this hot in 2022, Q2 or Q3, you're going to see a heck of a lot more Democratic retirements. I mean, to be a Democrat running for re-election when their party's responsible for a spike in gas prices, oh my goodness. Listen.
And the Fed's going to have to hit the brakes.
Well, they're going to have to. That's the next thing I want to talk about. Jobless claims in this country, news came out today, it's sub 200,000, 199,000 initial jobless claims. That, folks, is the lowest level since the early 90s. I mean, that is great news. Lowest level, excuse me, I made a mistake. Lowest level since 1969, the year your New York Mets won the World Series.
And the Jets won the Super Bowl, and the Knicks won the NBA playoffs. Just saying.
Just saying. Right around 68, 69 was a good time for New York. But
things suck since.
Think about that. It's been since then that you had jobless claims this look 1969, folks. That's 50 some odd years, and yet the Federal Reserve is continuing. They were buying $120 billion a month, okay? Dropped to 105 this November, going to drop to 90 in December. My question is, why are they continuing to do this? The Fed has a stated goal, low unemployment and a stable prices. Okay, right now unemployment's pretty damn low. It's mid-4s, 4.5% unemployment. Now, it's not as low as 3.5% where we were pre-pandemic, but you're getting awful close. I mean, let's just not call it perfect. Let's just call it, the grade of employment right now is probably B+, A-, okay? But stable prices? No. And then you've got the Treasury Secretary just, obviously pushing this Build Back Better bill, which is not, thank goodness for Manchin, it's not going to pass in its current form. But, man, you are just flooding. The Fed continues pumping money in. And again, one of the cures for some of this inflation that we're seeing would be to raise interest rates. There's a lot of noted economists calling for the Fed to stop this bond buying, which they probably won't do, and to raise rates sooner rather than later before this inflation gets really out of control.
They've been doing bond buying since Obama.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that. Well, once the pandemic hit, I mean, they just unleashed the spigots. I understand about what they did back in Q2, March of 2020 was a scary period. What happened in Q2, Q3 of 2020. But,
but the party's over.
Yeah, I mean, the party is over, and they need to stop this stuff because all it is just when people go to the grocery store and they're buying stuff, I mean, it's just debilitating to a lot of poor and middle-income families that they have to pay these costs.
Well, that was another lie he said. Yes, well, it wasn't a lie. It was a misleading statement. When he said yesterday that incomes are up, but inflation's up higher than the income.
Right.
So people have less money in their pockets.
Well, that's the net effect of where it is. And it's like the old saying, folks, if you get a 4% raise, but inflation's running 6%, you're down 2%. And you know what? A high income person may not feel it, but if you are lower income or low middle income, you're feeling it. Because when you got to fill that gas tank up, and then just the stuff that people have to buy going to the store, I mean, try buying beef. People, Carl Quintanilla on CNBC Squawk Box joke, well, we have, a gas, we have a strategic reserve for oil. We don't have a strategic reserve for beef. And boy, prices of beef are just escalating. Anyhow, it's not only the food and the gas. News came out today, Jeffrey, new home prices up 17% year over year. And you know what's happening in the housing market? You've got a shortage there. Prices are up. Builders are having to slow down building. Why? Very simple. They can't get all the supplies to actually build the homes, and the cost of what their raw materials are is escalating rapidly. And now with the prospect, Jeffrey, here's the scary part. With the prospect of rising interest rates, coupled with the supply chain issues and the cost of building materials going up, you could have a significant slowdown on your hands here.
Oh, yeah. New houses are going to be down. I have a friend who is fixing up his own house, and he tried to buy plywood. And he says it's like 3 times more than than years ago.
Yep. Yeah, no question about it. And Yeah, it's going to get dicey here because as we get through these holidays, we head into 2022. If these prices continue, the Fed's not going to have it. The Fed may be behind the curve right now, and we'll see how it plays itself out. Tech stocks have taken a beating this week because there's a perception now that if interest rates have to rise quickly or sooner than expected, that's going to take some of the valuation bite out of some of these tech stocks. And 6 major companies account for 20% of the value of the S&P 500. So if those 6 have, actually it's up to 24% now, if those 6 have any kind of hiccup with their market valuations, people are going to feel it in their investment portfolios.
And who's going to be hurt too, and no one's talking about it? As people are allowed out of the house, the streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus are going to lose a lot of subscribers because they can actually get out and do things.
Well, you would think so, but Netflix stock's clipping along north of $600. So I don't know. I will tell you one thing though that's going to have an effect. The Biden administration has this vaccine mandate in place for January 22nd. Anyone coming into the country's got to show basically proof of vaccination. That's going to affect a lot of truckers that drive the stuff up from Mexico or from Canada into the country. They're going to have to prove vaccination status to get those goods and services into the country.
That's true. I mean, and he's fighting the judgment that put off the that suspended the mandate for corporations.
Yeah.
And he's fighting it. I mean, and especially for truckers.
Yeah.
You look at what truckers in their cab by themselves. Who are they going to get sick?
Yeah.
The dashboard? I mean.
I hear you. That's what I'm saying. I wish the administration, I know they're ideologically bent on some of this stuff. I wish they would take a step back and just say, God, wait a second. If we continue with some of these policies that are wrong, who are we hurting? We're hurting our base. And not just Democratic people, but they're hurting all Americans who are lower middle class or poorer Americans, because these gasoline prices and food prices, it acts like a tax. And they're taxing the people who can least afford it. And at the same time they're doing that, I mean, these clowns in the House, they passed this Build Back Better thing with tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans. Again, it's called the SALT deduction. We talked about it. Hopefully, I never thought I'd see the day where Bernie Sanders and conservative senators would agree on anything, but they do. They actually agree. Even Sanders and Bob Menendez from up in New Jersey said, why are we doing this? He says, we shouldn't be giving tax benefits to people making over $400,000 a year, so maybe there'll be a cutout in this bill. But, the real negotiations are going to start in that bill come December 6th. That's when Schumer's scheduled to debate on it. So we'll see how much clout Manchin's willing to throw around. And right now, as almost anyone with a brain would recognize, Manchin and Sinema will dictate the terms of what, if anything, passes, in this bill.
Plus, they're giving, they're letting in anybody who is an illegal alien.
They're trying to. I don't think that's going to pass the Senate parliamentarian. Do you?
I don't know. I mean, it's not supposed to, but they could just say, you know what, parliamentarian doesn't have a say in this.
Manchin and Sinema won't let him do that. Manchin's opposed to that. I think that's going to get stripped out of the bill. I think the SALT deduction is going to be stripped down significantly. I think some of the child credit stuff, maybe the paid leave, maybe. They'll leave some of the environmental stuff in there to appease Sinema.
There's a fund in that also to give money to journalists.
Journalists.
$1.2 billion to give to journalists, and I'm thinking, is that a bribe?
You lost me on that one. You got to tell me more about one. I didn't catch that one when I read the bill.
I will email you because I read it this morning.
Okay.
And my reaction is, as long as they give it to, heavy-set, bald bloggers from Long Island, I don't have a problem with it. Other than that, it's a bribe.
Well, listen, we got a couple minutes left, on this eve of a great American holiday, and we talked about it a lot yesterday on the show about the origins of Thanksgiving, the Pilgrims, Plymouth Rock. tomorrow, Americans are going to celebrate Thanksgiving. Jeffrey, you had a comment on your blog today, lidblog.com. Share it with the people in your only Jeffrey Dunetz way about the failures of the wokeism on Thanksgiving.
Did you know that anybody who celebrates Thanksgiving is a racist?
Of course, everybody's a racist nowadays.
Well, but especially, look, tomorrow is a day to be with family, to watch some football, and to eat tons of carbs, so you have to undo your belt a little.
Yeah, no question.
But no, I mean, it's a family day. It's wonderful.
Right.
And, because they're saying that a lot of the people who originally came over on the Mayflower, they brought diseases to the Native Americans. Well, obviously, it's an evil, racist holiday. That's what these people are saying. They're teaching it in school, and they're protesting it.
Well,
Thanksgiving. I have so many great memories of Thanksgiving. A couple of bad ones.
And you know what? The overwhelming majority, 90+% of Americans will celebrate it like they have traditionally. They're going to eat the carbs, they're going to eat the turkey, they're going to hang around, even though we got to watch the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears, not exactly a stellar game. And then, of course, Dallas.
Could be worse.
Could be
Just
worse.
Remember, 2012, the famous butt fumble.
Yeah, right. No, but it's a great day to hang out, be with family, watch some football, and think about the blessings bestowed upon us in this greatest country on earth. For all these issues that we talk about, folks, we do remain optimistic. There will be sanity returned. The country always pushes back towards the middle. Whether you're center left, center right, that's where this country is. We will get through these issues. We will solve these problems. Hopefully the Fed does the right thing. Hopefully the Biden administration can pivot and do what's right for the American people. Jeffrey, I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow, and thank you for being my guest here on Thanksgiving Eve.
And to you and yours and Kevin and his, it should be, it's been a tough year because of last year's election, but we got through it.
Yep.
And we'll get through next year because this is still the greatest country in the world.
Amen. I agree with you. Folks, stay safe. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, and we will be back on Monday to tackle all the tough issues.
Just make sure your quarterback doesn't fumble the ball into his linebacker's butt.
Whoever you're gambling on this weekend. Thanks again, Jeffrey. Folks, we'll see you on Monday.
Mark.
Have a great weekend.
You too.